Last night, the Houston Astros got a victory. They won 2-1. Victor Caratini got the job done. Second time this season, pinch hit walk-off for him. They moved to 17-25 on the season. They are 5.5 back now of the Seattle Mariners. They're crawling their way out of the depths of hell.
Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor. Have you ever seen?
What is that from?
Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
Okay.
You've never seen that movie?
I have.
It's about the story of how Santa became Santa.
I guess I just don't remember that.
It's a hit banger from that movie, along with another song, which is, let's just say, not aged well. If you sit on my lap today, a kiss, a toy is the price you'll pay.
What a start to the show. I didn't know that's a real song.
Yeah, those claymation Christmas classics.
Oh, it's one of those creepy claymation movies. That's why.
Yeah.
Those movies do weird me out, man. They're weird.
They don't weird me out. It's just my childhood that I get to watch once a year, and it doesn't really age as you get more and more cynical, skeptical, and like to poke holes in it. But the Astros are putting one foot in front of the other, and they're walking across the floor.
Unless you're Ronel Blanco and you're not playing for the next 10 days.
Yeah.
So in the fourth inning, Ronel Blanco gets his glove checked, gets tossed, pending 10-game suspension on the way. They will wait for Major League Baseball to do their official investigation. I guess they're gonna test it to make sure it's just.
They're
rosin.
not gonna test a damn thing. So,
Yeah.
Joe, I was in Seattle when the first person who was caught for doctoring a ball, Hector Santiago, was busted. Do you know what they did? They put the glove in a kitchen trash bag. They put it in a trash bag.
And then they sent it.
They sent it in quotation marks. They're not sending bleep. They're just going to suspend him 10 games. Do you think that they're going to do an investigation of just how sticky the glove is? I don't even know how you do that. It seems like it's a subjective thing.
I think they're more like they're testing it to make sure, see if there's substance there that's not just rosin. Because Ronel Blanco after the game was so adamant. It's just rosin. It's just rosin.
But they ejected him and they suspended him. So, I mean, they probably feel that it was more than rosin. And I guess more specifically, as highlighted by Joe Espada afterwards, you're not allowed to have rosin on your non-pitching hand. So it's on his non-pitching arm at the very least.
Well, of course you're not. That's part of the rules. But the problem is that Major League Baseball doesn't follow the rules. Like, that's why I have a bunch of issues with this. First of all, Ronel Blanco, I'm going to be honest. You got to know the rules yourself, okay? You do. These checks are in place. But what about the checks the first couple innings? He had to be checked at least one previous time at a minimum. They just didn't. It just magically got worse. What about the day before? What about May 13th when the Dodgers and the Giants were playing and a Dodgers player, there was an issue with this glove. I think it was Yamamoto. He had an issue with this glove. You know what they did? They let him change his glove. The Yankees, we saw it happen. They made
that was last night. The Yankees won.
They let the guy wash his hands.
He got to wash his hands. You're right. So there's inconsistency, and for all the people who would like robot umpires, this is more ammunition for you, because you would think that a robot would be consistent with its iron 1010111 sense of law, but you can't help but wonder if the Astros are getting jobbed, even if it's just a fleeting thought, because you're right, Joe. Ronel Blanco should have known better here. If it's on the wrong arm, it's on the wrong arm. But you do wonder about the consistency here, and if the Astros are being made a more punished, I guess, actor in this situation. And it sucks because here come all the Astros cheating again online. And then people looking at Ronel Blanco's awesome start to the year, and they're now skeptical about everything that he's done, seeing as he's doing this all at the age of 29.
And that's why I do feel like Major League Baseball, whether they want to suspend him or not and follow this up, I do feel like you owe explanations to these things. Because if you look at spin rate and everything before last night's game, during last night's game, there's no difference, right? So it leads to one of two things. Either the assumption from what you'll get from most opposing fans is that he's been doing this all year and people will be watching his next start big time to see what it looks like because the spin rate's been consistent. Or it means that he was doing nothing wrong in last night's game and it was just rosin and sweat. And in reality, he should not have been thrown out of these games. But the fact that the umpires don't have a standard. Now, they claimed after the game it's the stickiest stuff they've ever seen.
What does that even mean?
What does that mean?
That's subjective. If they actually had a way to measure stickiness, which I doubt they do, it's baseball, and even if it's been 3 years, I doubt that by now they have developed some method of measuring how sticky it was, let alone what actual substances are on the ball. And to what you're asking for, Joe, a little bit of transparency. It would be nice, but transparency would only make the baseball look bad here. If this investigation finds that perhaps it wasn't as sticky as this umpire said, quote, the stickiest stuff I've felt on a glove, well, do you want your umpires looking bad? They're already being called into question on a nightly basis based off of balls and strikes calls. So I would like it as well. We're not going to get it. There's not going to be an investigation. Blanco's going to get suspended for 10 games, and that's going to be an issue for the Astros.
Yeah, I kind of anticipate the same thing. I know Dana Brown is saying that he's hoping that they will do the investigation and they will hear back. And I know everyone keeps saying Blanco said it, Brown has said it, Spada has said it, that it's independent, that it's not, being done by Major League Baseball, by the Umpires Association. So in theory, it should be a neutral party, right? But that's in theory because these things don't happen very often. Like the fact that you have players being allowed to wash their hands, to change their gloves, and then guys being suspended, there is no clear rule here that they're following, which makes it even harder and more complicated, I think, to alleviate his suspension. Because if you're actually going to throw him out, you kind of have to take the word of the umpire here if you're this independent guy.
Right, 100%. And, I mean, what? Do you think the umpire is going to, afterwards, like he's a cop, he's got his tie loosened, he's smoking a cigarette, his wife's been nagging him because it's 8 p.m. and he's typing up a report about the investigation into the glove? Because, if you're a police guy, there's lots of paperwork there. There's not going to be any effort put into this paperwork. They just want to move on to the next night. So Blanco's getting screwed here.
Yeah.
He should have probably known. A couple of people have correctly pointed out that, yeah, you'll see guys with rosin that's on their non-throwing arm all the time. And if you're a sweater, which I thought was funny, pointed out during the long pause by the Astros broadcast, well, Ronel Blanco, he sweats a lot, even though this game's indoors. Well, the air conditioning at Minute Maid Park doesn't work so well. So theoretically, it could have been sweat.
Yeah.
But, yeah, ultimately, the Astros are just going to be without their best starter for 2 starts.
And without another guy on the roster. Like that's probably the bigger issue in all of this. It's not just losing Blanco, who's been excellent this season, because you have JV who bounced back, you have Javier who you hope will bounce back in his next start. Like you have all these guys who are performing well, but the problem is that you have Spencer Arrighetti, you have Hunter Brown, who's now going to be back in the rotation, and they can't give you 2 innings because you're not allowed to replace Ronel Blanco. So yes, while it kind of works out for the Astros a little bit that they had 6 starters on their big league roster, the problem is that you've got no bullpen depth. And in last night's game was a huge win, I think, because you used all your bullpen and in a big way. So winning last night's game, who knows what the bullpen's going to look like today when they play? I don't even know how many of these guys they're going to be forced to be available when they normally probably wouldn't be.
Taylor Scott gave you 2 good innings. Credit to him. You also saw Rafael Montero strike out the side. Didn't see that coming. I mean, Josh Hader goes 2 innings. Pretty good. He still had some Ryan Stresley. There's still a lot of the issues that you've been seeing with the Astros on a nightly basis last night. The lack of hits with runners in scoring position. Jordan in particular struggling in that spot. But the bullpen stepped up. They're going to have to continue to step up. The good news is the schedule is a little bit easier, so you would hope that you're not going to see any Blair Henley moments out there in the near future.
Yeah, I mean, Javier starts today. You need more than 1.1 innings.
I agree.
Like you need a lot more than that.
How many more?
5 at least. At a minimum, you need 5. And
It would be nice to have 5.
Dana asked here on the Twitch, does anyone really care? No. I don't think like Major League Baseball players really care. In fact, it's the opposite. If you listen to Major League pitchers, they talk about when they changed the baseball a couple of years ago and there was all the sticky stuff going on, that people had an issue with it. And Fromber's today, Javier's tomorrow. They had an issue with it because they couldn't grip the baseball. And guys like Tyler Glasnow have gone on record that say that they think that's what's causing the injuries. You have hitters who are saying that now these guys are throwing 99 or, 103 and have a baseball in which they don't have as much control over. And hitters would rather the pitchers have a little bit of sticky stuff on their hands. So 103 is not coming at their dome. So no, to Dana, to your point on the Twitch, I don't think it's something that players really care about. And yes, as the Twitch points out, he's not suspended yet. He will appeal.
He's going to get suspended. The appeal's a pointless gesture.
You might have
do it for the sake of doing it, but maybe it gets down to 5. But ultimately, you think that they're going to actually do due diligence here?
No.
That they're going to see what was on his arm? They're not cutting his arm off and putting it in evidence, They're just taking the glove in. The glove is all that they are going to look at, and the glove has all the sticky stuff on it. Quote from the umpire, stickiest stuff I've ever seen. Whatever that even means, that's what they're taking in as evidence. So Blanco's effed. He's effed. It's over.
Yeah, I think once you get ejected, it's like 10 games.
Yeah.
Just right off that. And so he did get ejected. So I believe it'll be 10 games, unless upset of all upsets. Maybe there's some mistake. Oh, you know what? You said the paperwork. Maybe there's a mistake in the paperwork. Get off on a technicality. Boom. Mistrial.
But it's not like baseball is going to share that paperwork with us.
No, that's the bad part, is that at least the U.S. justice system's public.
They only let the umpire speak with one reporter at the end of every game.
I hate that.
That's across sports, by the way.
Yeah.
It's the pool reporter. If one person gets selected to ask questions of that umpire or referee, if there's something that I guess is worth asking about. And this is definitely worth asking about. But the history of baseball enforcing or reinforcing a penalty on pitchers who are using sticky stuff after the spider tax scandal. I mean, I doubt things have progressed much more in terms of investigation from where they were with the initial suspension, which I remember me and my co-host, Danny O'Neill up in Seattle, were cackling about how they took a effing hefty trash bag, with orange drawstrings, white. Maybe it was scented. Who knows? They just put the glove in the bag.
I hope it wasn't scented. I feel like that alters your tests.
I would think so. What a professional investigation. There's no latex gloves that the umpires are putting on. I mean, it's a farce, and it sucks because, as you pointed out for Blanco, 2 other pitchers within the last 24 to 48 hours had the opportunity to change gloves and to wash their hands. And all you can really say is, damn it. There's nothing that's going to change, though.